Hello and welcome to Beyond the Deals podcast. I'm your host, Gabrielle Simmons. I am here today with a very special guest, Lorena Zamora, which I love just saying your name. I always have. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to give you a formal introduction here in just a second. I want to make sure I mention our sponsor, Builders Outlet in Denver, Colorado. They are your go-to for windows, doors, trim, and cabinets. Check them out at buildersoutletco.com. All right, Lorena, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you.
It looks so much longer than, I just saw you. We were in Mexico
Yeah.
a month ago, but your hair looks super long. What did you do?
Thank you. I just cut it, honestly. I got more layers in it. So it's crazy. People have been telling me it looks longer, but shorter. Yeah. I dyed it too. I got like a chocolate burgundy.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just going flat, so I put more layers. But thank you. That looks so good.
Thanks. Good. So I wanted to bring you on here, obviously, not just because you're one of my best friends, but because you have an expertise in house hacking,
Yes.
right? And you're also a real estate agent, real estate investor yourself. Tell us a little bit about your experience in house hacking and how you got started in that.
So, that's a great introduction. Thank you. I got into real estate when I was 24. So I was working. I don't know if you know this about me.
There's a lot I still don't know about you.
Much you don't know. So I was 24 and I was working as a social worker at a nonprofit. And that's what I went to school for. So I got my degree in that and wasn't paying much, as you know. And so I got my real estate license and I was doing both. I was working full time as a social worker. And then I was doing real estate on the side. So I'd do showings, meet with clients on the weekends, and then I'd even meet with clients during my lunch breaks.
Wow.
Like I'd schedule them at a coffee shop like down the street from the nonprofit, and I would do that. So I would skip lunch. I was hustling.
Heck yeah, you're a true hustler.
Yeah, like not eating or scarfing something down and just getting it done. But it's easy to like burn out that way when you're not like resting and stuff like that. So what I did is I bought my first house.
When you were
24.
Okay.
Yeah. So I used my income from the nonprofit to qualify primary residence. And the goal was to house hack it so that I can get house. For those who don't know, house hacking is you live in the property and you rent out parts of your house, either just the basement or multiple rooms in the home. And that helps cover the mortgage, utilities, and either you break even or you make a profit.
Yes. Thank you for breaking that down. I was going to ask you to do that for our audience.
Yeah. So that was my introduction into real estate investing. So I bought a fixer. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, how did you learn about house hacking? How did that become a thing on your radar?
So my partner at the time had been doing it already, and it was something very new.
Yeah.
He had seen it. He's from Boston, from Massachusetts. And so he saw it there when he was in college. There was a couple who was renting rooms out to college students in their house. And he did the math. He's like, oh my God, we're paying for their mortgage and they're just chilling, living for free.
Yeah.
He's like, that's genius. I'm going to do that too when I get to, Colorado or wherever. So he did that. And I saw that that's what he was doing.
Nice.
And he kind of guided me and then that's how I starght.
Sweet. And I had interrupted you. What were you going to say after that?
I forgot. What was I going to say? That, so the whole thing behind it was I wanted to go into real estate full time.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, like you need to have either some money saved up or, some funds coming in as you establish yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, consistent pay as you're like starting out.
Showing.
Yeah. So then that's what I did. I did the house hacking so that my bills were covered. So I'm like, okay, if I have roommates, I know every month all my bills are good. So that if I have like a few months where I don't make any sales or anything like that, like I'm still good.
Yeah.
So yeah, after I got my house, I quit my job
Nice.
And then I went 100% into real estate.
As a agent.
As an agent, full-time agent, yeah.
And so what does that process look like then for somebody who wants to buy a house and live in it and house hack it? What does that process look like to fill the rooms, to fill the space? Like, how do you hire a property management company? Is this something that you do by yourself to find the tenants?
No, I did it all on my own. I still do it all on my own. I manage. Right now I have 11 tenants.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you manage the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, it feels like a lot, but once you get your systems down, it's fine. Facebook Marketplace has been my go-to.
Okay.
I also do like Zillow because it goes on to hot pads from there, but I get the most traffic from Facebook Marketplace. I just list the room for rent with the photos, the description.
Fully furnished or empty?
So that's the thing. I furnish the whole house, kind of like Airbnb style. And then most of the rooms I furnish, bed, side table, something very basic. A couple of rooms I'll leave empty because some people do have their own furniture, just so that there's that option. And then I price them differently too, based it on whether they're on the main floor, the basement, if they're furnished or not furnished.
Love that. I like that you do both. I've house hacked too and done fully furnished properties to rent per bedroom that I don't live in. I never thought to leave a couple of them empty.
Yeah. It helps because sometimes they'll want like a specific room that's furnished. So then I'll just move that furniture into another room that is unfurnished because they want a different one.
Yeah.
Versus having to like be like, well, no, I can't rent to you because you have your own furniture, because I ran into that before.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very accommodating.
Yeah. I also, yes, I'm in real estate and, it's a great industry to be in. And my heart is still like has the social work in there where like I like to genuinely help people. And it's creative housing and it's affordable housing. It's like our own way to provide that.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive. Like so many adults are not able to have their own place. Like the cost of living is really high.
Yeah. Especially when you're single, or you don't have kids and all that. Like you don't necessarily need a whole place to yourself and to pay that rent in Denver. What does it cost to rent like a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment?
At least like $1,500 or more.
$1,500. Yeah, that's like low end.
Yeah.
$1,500 plus. And so
like up to $2,000 depending on the area, plus utilities.
Yeah.
So I include utilities, so they know they have a flat fee. They don't have to worry about it going up month per month.
And so what do most of your tenants pay then?
On average, I would say anywhere from $800 to $1,000 per room.
Wow. Yeah. So hundreds of dollars of savings every single month, if not close to $1,000, really.
Savings, to have a room or anything.
Yeah.
I also get the properties cleaned once a month. So professional cleaning. Everybody's responsible for cleaning up after themselves, obviously, but I like the houses to be clean. And when you're in a living situation where common spaces are shared, it's nice to maintain it clean. Yeah. Also a good way to keep an eye on my properties. I have somebody going in there, and if something's off, they'll let me know. And then keeping them nicely maintained.
Yeah. So you told us about how you got your first property. Tell us a little bit more about how you acquired your next property after that.
So the great thing about house hacking is if you're living in them, you can buy as a primary residence. So a lot of people think you have to put 20% down if it's an investment property. But the loophole is that if you purchase as your primary, within the first year, as long as you buy with the conventional loan, you can buy again another primary residence and do the same thing again. So you can rinse and repeat.
Now, buying conventional as your primary, what does your down payment typically look like?
It's at 3%.
3%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on my first property, I didn't use down payment assistance. I saved up my own down payment. Reason being is with down payment, it's great. There's assistance, but their interest rate, sometimes it's a little bit higher. Then if you do your own down payment, you can buy the interest rate down and things like that.
And then you don't have mortgage interest,
Yeah,
which is an additional payment every month.
exactly. Yeah. So that's what I did. So then on the second one, I bought conventional, and I actually found a cool program. I have no idea what the name is, but I can always connect people to lenders who have these programs.
Okay.
But I used down payment assistance for my second property,
Nice.
which was great. Because a lot of people think, it's only the first one that you can use it on. And I got approved even though I already had a property.
So you spent $0 to acquire
the second one. I did not spend $0. I still had to pay like closing costs.
Okay.
But it wasn't, they covered the down payment. So it was a lot less than the first time.
Yeah.
So I probably spent like $15,000 maybe.
Wow.
But this one, I actually got to buy my dream home in like the area that I really wanted.
I know, and I was trying to help you find another house in the area. That I was talking to the seller, and we were trying to get,
a good wholesale deal.
Yeah.
I think it's just timing's everything. At the time, I was out of the country, and I think it was too much for me to like take on.
They weren't ready to sell anyway.
Yeah.
I tried very hard.
Yeah, for you. Thank you. Now I'm ready though, so send me any deals.
Yes. So give us the details on that property. How many bedrooms, bathrooms? And I think you did something kind of different with that one too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you didn't do with the first one?
So no, that's the third one where I put a kitchen in the basement.
Oh.
Yeah, but this one is the one where I bought an old, what do you call it? It's not a Victorian. It's like a
Historic?
It's like kind of, I guess an old brick home. I can't think of the name right now. Oh my God. Can't think of it. But it's an old 1900s house, brick, and I bought it. It's in the Highlands area. So I grew up in that area before it became like the hot bougie, neighborhood. I grew up back when it was the hood. Back when people didn't want to live there.
Right.
So it was a dream of mine to like go back and live there, but I didn't think I could afford it, especially by myself. Because at the time, all the houses were like close to $1 million or more. There's still that much.
Wow.
And so, ask and you shall receive. Or, a lot of times you put barriers in your own mind before you even try. So I was like, you know what? Let me just look. Let me see if there's something in the area that maybe I can afford. And at the time it was COVID, and so the interest rates dropped a lot.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to qualify for more. I picked up a house from a flipper who had multiple properties going.
Mm-hmm.
And so his workers, that house was just sitting there. His workers weren't able to get to it. They kind of just cleaned it up and put it back on the market. And so they left it, kind of halfway. The basement was like kind of torn down. The bathroom was like non-existent in the basement. So your typical family who wants to move into that area was not going to take up like such a big project.
Right.
And then there wasn't enough money for like another flipper to take it.
Right.
For them to like still make money. So it was sitting. And at the time where people were putting like multiple offers and like going crazy, I was able to negotiate a good deal on this one.
That's amazing. It's like everything just aligned with it making sense financially for you.
Yeah.
Being, you already described how it didn't work for so many other people. Your retail buyer who wants to come in there and live in it and doesn't have money to fix it up.
Exactly.
And doesn't work for the everyday flipper who wants to come put in a bunch of money and sell it and hopefully make a profit.
Exactly.
But it worked just right for you, given your ability to qualify as a primary.
Exactly.
And you knew that you could
So I put 5%
profit.
down on this one.
5%.
5%. I think that's what they required. 5%.
Yeah.
Bought it as a primary, and I lived in it while I remodeled it. It's yeah.
That's hard. That's a journey.
Yeah. I didn't have blinds for like 6 months. It was this huge house that was kind of haunted. That's a story for another time. But these houses are old. Yeah.
And you're there all by yourself.
Chilling with the ghost in there.
Just having tea parties.
Yeah. But yeah, my uncle's a contractor, so that really helped. He'd come over and I hired a few other people. My cousin, his son has a painting company. So while I was out working in real estate, my family was helping me, with painting and all kinds of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sanded the floors, restained, literally did a full flip. New roof, new everything.
Wow.
Um,
Now, have I seen this house?
this is the one that's off of 38th and Federal. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the one I've been to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one
Okay.
I've been to.
I haven't been to your others.
No, you haven't. Yeah. So this one's like my baby because like it's in the area that I like and I put so much into it. I think I spent like $100,000 to fix it up.
Nice. Where'd you get that capital to do that?
I don't even know.
Just it?
The real estate. Like I just hustled that year. Yeah, like as I was working with clients, I was having closings. And that year, I just was using whatever I was making.
During COVID, yeah.
During COVID, it was a good
time
year.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So say like I didn't have a lot of savings by the end of the year, but everything I was making, I was like putting into the house.
Mm.
And it worked out because now that house is worth like at least $1 million or more.
Nice.
And I bought it.
Yeah.
I bought it for $500 or $550.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was a really good investment, which I was so scared because I'm like, I'm putting so much money into this house.
Right.
So it's definitely worth it. Like if you can buy a fixer upper, and live in it, especially like if you don't, if you don't have kids or you have the ability to do that, it works.
Yeah.
It works out in the long run.
And I love your bravery. I love that you're honest when you're nervous or scared about something, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's definitely required in this business, in real estate as a whole, but especially as an investor. And especially when you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
When you don't have a lot of backing, be it parents or family or, any type of real cushion to fall back on.
Yeah.
It's all on you. It takes a lot to be scared and do it anyway.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
just pay attention to those numbers and just making sure that like you trust your ability to properly analyze the deal to make sure that it is a deal and it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And you're buying into a safe investment too.
Right.
That's something that's super important to understand about house hacking. It's actually one of the least risky strategies,
Right.
depending how you acquire it, right? And that you're not going in spending all of your savings to get a property. But with house hacking versus fixing and flipping, it's less risky because you have this house that you're keeping, you're holding on to, you're getting into it with a reasonable interest rate. Unlike fix and flips, a lot of times people are using hard money loans.
Yeah.
And we know how high those interest rates can be, or those monthly, quarterly payments can be outrageous. So I love that like you know a lot about real estate and you know the different strategies and you've chosen one that works for you and you've chosen to like duplicate the process.
Yeah.
Because it's worked. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's safe. So the biggest reason why I like doing house hacking is right now how the market is, if you were to buy a property and just rent it to like a family as a single family home, you don't make much of a profit. You barely make enough for it to pay for itself. But when you rent per room, you make a lot more.
Right.
So say that same house maybe would rent for, I don't know, like $3,500, right? I have 5 bedrooms that I rent out for $1,000.
I'm going to pull up my calculator.
Like $1,000 to $1,100 each.
Okay. We'll go on the low end. 1,000
times $5,000. That's $5,000.
Yeah.
So making $5,000 versus, like $3,500. Yeah. You're making, $1,500 more.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Big difference. And especially in today's market, especially in the last 2 years, looking at anyone who wants to buy a house with these interest rates, how they've been, you bought it a great time with a great low interest rate. Your monthly payment is probably relatively low. and given you bought it for $500,000.
Yeah.
But someone who wanted to buy a comparable property, even a $500,000 property in that neighborhood today with today's interest rates, their payment would be so high.
It'd be like $4,000.
The only way to make it make sense would be to rent it per bedroom.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
said.
literally. So that's why I've done it that way. And your risk is less if you
Or short-term rental.
short-term rental. Yeah. Because if you say you have a vacancy, right, for like a month, you're now losing the mortgage payment, which is $3,000 to $4,000 every month.
Yeah.
Versus if one person moves out, you're only losing $1,000 per month that you don't fill that room versus losing the $4,000 a month.
Yep. So our mortgage is still covered.
Your mortgage is still covered by the other tenants, and so there's a lot less risk. So I don't stress out as much if I have a vacancy.
Yeah.
Or, now I'm like, okay, I'm, losing $1,000 a month, which I can cover out of pocket or whatever, right?
Right.
And sometimes you're not losing. You're just, everything's still covered. That's your profit for that month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm. So it's been a safe investment for sure.
And so how did you get the third property? What did that look like?
So because I knew the interest rates were going up, then I had all this equity in this house. And I'm like, if I don't want to sell it, I want to keep it, because long-term rentals are like one of the best ways to generate, wealth. I didn't want to sell it, but then if I refinanced, I was going to lose the killer interest rate that I had during COVID. So I'm like, how do I access like this $500,000 that's like in the house without losing it? So I got a HELOC.
What's a HELOC?
It's a home equity line of credit. There's a credit union that will give you up to 100% actually of your equity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here, local?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I went through them. They did an appraisal, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think at the time it had appraised for like $970.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, so I did. I got like, I want to say like a $400,000 HELOC from it.
You had roughly $400,000 in equity.
In equity, yeah.
So you owed roughly $500, and then it being worth $970, you had over $400,000 in equity. Got a loan for that.
Yes, which you can access. You don't have to take out the whole amount. So I pulled out like $50,000 only. I still have, that which I can access at any time in case of emergencies, in case of there's a good investment.
Yeah.
Now that I, I'm starting to look at flipping.
Yeah.
I can finance my own deals at a much lower interest rate.
Yes.
Things like that. Anyway, so I used that for my down payment for my next house.
You pulled out $50,000 from your HELOC, and okay.
And I did the same thing, rinse and repeat. I bought another primary. I moved into it. And that one was already flipped. That one was a flip. So, because at the time, I didn't have the energy. I'm like, I'm not trying to live in a
construction zone.
Exactly. While it gets, remodeled. So the only thing I did was I added a kitchen to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And I added an extra bedroom. So, we cut in and did another, an egress window, because you need a window in order for it to be considered a bedroom. And yeah, I basically split the house into like a duplex.
Nice.
And so then I rent the house that way where, people have shared spaces, and the same thing, rent per bedroom. And
it's how many bedrooms?
That one, I added one in the basement. So it's 3 and 3, so 6 total.
Wow, that's amazing. How many bathrooms?
There's 2. So each floor has 1 bathroom.
1 full bath.
Yeah. So then there's 3 people on 1 floor. So you're sharing a bathroom with 2 people.
And so have you had, what's your craziest tenant story? I'm sure you have to have one. We all
Recently, I had to, actually.
Oh, man. Okay. Tell us. We got to know.
So I've been lucky. In the last 7 years that I've done this, I have not had any crazy really stories or had to evict anybody really. But in the last couple months, I had 2. One of the tenants moved in, and I guess he was having mental health issues. And so he called like on a wellness check for himself, and he got himself admitted into like a mental center. And so it was scary for the roommates because the cops just showed up and they're like, what's going on, you know? And so, you know, I got notified by everyone else, and we didn't know when he was coming back. I guess he was having suicidal thoughts, and so that's why he admitted himself. But then he didn't pay rent. So then I'm like, well, I don't want to evict the poor guy. He's already going through a hard time, but how else do I get his stuff out and fill this space? I'm like losing money. And so I have a good friend who's an attorney, and he started helping me with that. But then we contacted his family, and we were able to, you know, figure out where I can go drop off his things, because he didn't have much. He just had like a couple suitcases.
Yeah.
And so dropped that off, and then, you know, that was fine. So that one was one. And then literally like the month after, I had someone else who apparently had a gun and threatened a couple of the tenants there. Yeah.
Goodness.
And so, but then the tenants didn't call the cops, which they should have, versus the next morning, they're like, hey, what's your policy on firearms? I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, does somebody have a gun?
Right.
So yeah, I guess he was really drunk, and he was like waving the gun, and they ended up tackling him and taking the gun from him. So they were scared, because now they're like, anytime, one, he has a gun. Two, anytime he gets drunk, he would get a little, you know, like aggressive.
Yeah.
But they had never told me. So those are the things. Like, I have a rule guide that I have them sign, which says like conflict resolution. Like, if you're in danger, call the police, right? But any other conflict resolution, try to resolve it on your own, because I also don't want to be a babysitter of like adults.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't get along, you know.
And they come tattling on each other to you.
So, but they went overboard where they weren't telling me anything until it got really bad.
Yeah. And so then in an effort to make sure everybody feels safe and secure, like, then what do you do with this guy?
So I called the police, right? And they're like, well, you can't press charges because you weren't the victim. So then I had them call and press charges, one. And then they're like, well, this is a civil matter, so you have to go through the court and evict him. And, you know, this can take up to like 60 days.
Yeah.
And so what I did was like, okay, the biggest thing is safety and them not wanting him there. So I talked to him, and I was like, hey, can you tell me what happened, you know? And he was very remorseful. He was actually crying and, you know, saying like, I think I have a drinking problem. Like, I don't really remember what happened. Like, I took the gun to my parents' house. And basically I worked with him, and I said, hey, I'm going to have to evict you. But if I go this route, you're going to have an eviction on your record, and it's going to be very difficult for you to rent going forward, because it's going to come up and nobody's going to want to rent to you.
Right.
Do you have somewhere you can go? Do you have friends or family that you can move out? And I gave him a week and a half. I was like, if you can move out by next Friday, then I won't continue with the eviction process, and you can move out on your own.
Right.
And he's like, thank you for giving me that opportunity. And he accepted, and he did. He moved out.
That's amazing.
So
that could have gone so
bad. Yes. And I didn't think he was going to want to like work with me. Yeah. But my uncle's like, let's go talk to him. I'll go with you. Like, tell him that, you know, people don't feel safe with him.
Yeah.
I think he felt terrible, because he felt really bad, because he had created a friendship with the people.
Yeah.
So knowing that they didn't want him there anymore I think was very hurtful and kind of hurt his ego. So he's like, yes, I don't want to live there. They don't want me there. And, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the beautiful thing that I liked to witness in creating those homes, those spaces. Excuse me, my gum. I should probably take it out before. But that's what I love about these houses is it's kind of surprising to see how everybody becomes like family. Like, yeah, they start hanging out with each other. And these are strangers from usually very different walks of life that all come to live in a home together. And they don't get to choose who their roommates are, right? We're choosing. Yeah. So we have to be super careful about like how we're matching people's energies. I would say energies is how I look
personalities, yeah.
at them. Yeah. To ensure that it's going to be cool with everybody else that lives there.
I feel like I have a good sense usually. Like I'll try and get people that are similar in age. And I have the most diverse houses, which is so cool.
And you have co-ed houses.
Yeah.
Men and women.
Men and women.
Which I've always done just men. In my properties. So I think that's cool too that you
I love it. I think again, it's a balance of the energies, because when it's all women, I feel like it can get a little catty. I had that in the beginning. So my first house, I had all women, and it started getting a little like hostile.
No surprise, unfortunately.
But then if it's all men, I feel like maybe it might not stay as clean. Versus when you have both, then it's not like cliquey. Then, people clean after themselves more. And I don't know, I just feel like there's better harmony.
Yeah, it works well.
Yeah, so I actually enjoy living with like co-ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at my place, there's only 2 girls and 3 guys, actually.
That's amazing. And so you built all of this with it. How old are you now?
31.
I know we're not supposed to ask ladies that.
It's okay.
31. And you bought your first house when you were 24.
24, yeah.
So in 7 years, you have acquired 3 properties that you hold on to long term. Do you have plans to sell any of them at any point?
Eventually, maybe, but no. I feel like once you understand real estate, you can refinance and like rinse and repeat and not have to sell your assets.
Or do HELOCs.
Or do HELOCs without, like I could have lost, or I could have used up that, $400,000 and that's it. Versus now I can use part of it, pay it back, and then use it again. Like that HELOC is always going to be there.
And over time,
different projects.
the value of that property is still increasing too. The total value is still increasing, and the amount that you owe, because it's being paid every month, the mortgage is decreasing.
Right.
So every year you're holding onto that property, you're gaining more and more equity.
Yeah.
Even in a down market, it's still just a giant savings account that's available for you to tap into. So I love that. And congratulations. It's amazing that you have built all of this in 7 years, and at such a young age, you have done so much. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
Oh man, I would be like you. Look at you. You have your own podcast. I'm proud of us. Yes. Yeah. No, I feel very blessed right now because I know there's, some equity. I think in the beginning, when you don't have anything, you're like, you're okay taking risks and you don't care because you don't have anything anyway, Once you have some equity, you become a little scared of like making the wrong move and losing it overnight, because it could happen, like making one wrong step. So right now I'm trying to be mindful about learning, getting mentorship, and just so that I can invest, what's taking me 7 years to build, in like another asset that can, continue growing.
Yeah, and now you have your sights set on maybe doing some flips, or what else are you kind of interested in moving your investments into?
So I've been looking at other markets. I want to buy a multi-unit.
Yeah.
There's, like I can even do, 20, 30% down if I was to sell one of the properties or refinance. And then I can buy like a 10 or 16 unit, and another. And then I'd just do a property manager for that. You don't want to manage it yourself. So that and flipping for sure.
Yeah.
Right now I'm, want to get my dual license as well in another state. Thinking about getting licensed in Texas.
Yeah.
The market's doing good out there. There's a really big Hispanic community.
Yes, I was gonna say I wanna plug that you are one of the few. I mean, I know there's many, but you're one of the few real estate agents who I know who is bilingual, helps the Hispanic community, and has a knowledge in firsthand experience in investing. you know, and understanding so many different types of investing. So do you work with investor clients, especially those that are Spanish speaking and kind of have a hard time finding help elsewhere because of the language barrier?
So I do. A good amount of my business is Spanish speaking. And I've helped some of them house hack it. Like not just Spanish speakers, but clients in general who know that I've done this. I've helped them set it up as well. So looking for properties where, you know, I'll look at the rent, how much they can rent per room or just the basement. Some of them are, you know, either families or a couple where because rates are so high, they can't afford the mortgage payment on their own, but we'll find them a house and they will do like a separate entrance and like rent out their basement.
Nice.
And that, like that pays for the majority or half of their mortgage.
And so you get to not just be their realtor, their buyer's agent, but you get to also educate them on how they can make their purchase an investment, not just a what's the opposite of an asset? I don't know why my brain just not just a liability that they live in, but an asset that they can actually make money off of or save a little bit on their mortgage. So
which is great. I think for a lot of the Hispanic community, it could be a little difficult where they're like, I don't want to live with people.
Yeah.
And not just Hispanics, but a lot of people.
Yeah.
So for me, because of like college and traveling and like stayed in hostels before, I'm okay having like common spaces, you know, and I feel like I'm pretty chill. Some people are like, no, I don't want people to use my things. And you know, so it's not for everyone. It definitely is a sacrifice, but I think it's worth it. I mean, how else are you going to build equity so quickly without having to put 20% down every time?
Yeah.
It's helps you get your foot in the door, I would say.
No doubt.
Or even if you just house hack your first property and then get your second one as like, you know, your forever home.
Yeah.
So,
did I ever tell you the story of my house hack? My first house I bought?
it was the one in Pueblo, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell it.
It was a duplex. I think actually I told this already on one of the other episodes, so I'll save it. But yeah, I agree that just buying your first, especially so it makes sense financially, buying it as your primary residence and then having the ability to rent out other rooms, like it makes too much sense financially.
For sure.
In any market, regardless of interest rates. Like even if you can afford it, even if your mortgage is super low and you don't need to rent out other spaces in your home, it allows you the opportunity to not spend so much to live. We all are going to spend money to live, rent or mortgage.
Yeah.
But it allows you to like save so much of that money that can be applied to another purchase where you can do what you did, go buy another one and have the down payment to spend. So
I mean, you know, I love to travel. So people always wondered like, is she making so much money or how is she traveling? It's not how much you make, it's like how much you keep and like keeping your expenses low.
Yeah.
And your mortgage is like the biggest, you know, payment.
Share a little bit with us about your travels. And I mean, I was blown away watching you and giving you a goodbye as you were leaving for your trip around the world for a year. But I was blown away to see like how you could afford to travel full time and live off of the money that you're making from these properties. And I want to say you had just the two
at the time. No, I had the three.
Okay,
I had just got the third one, and that was my new primary residence. And
but you weren't even like generating income off of it yet when you first left, right?
I was generating very little, maybe like $500.
Okay.
Yeah. But once I moved out, then you know, then I can generate because then my stuff is not in. I'm not occupying that room.
That space.
Space. Yeah.
And so, how much did you need to spend to live in other parts of the world, and where did you go?
So I had some money saved as well. This is a trip that I had planned ever since I got into real estate. So for the last like 7 years, I knew I'm like, I want to create passive income so I can travel the world and be able to take off whenever I want. And so that I'm not dependent on the market or always hustling. So like I know if I have some off months, I don't have to worry about my bills and I can just go stay in Mexico for a month because I know everything's covered.
Yeah.
It's passive. So I started in South Africa and made my way up from there. Like I went to Tanzania. I don't know if you've heard of Zanzibar.
Nope.
It's it's a one of the most like beautiful beach like destinations in like East Africa. It's
Wow.
beautiful. The water's like pristine, like super clear.
Wow.
Yeah. And then went to Kenya. I ended up loving Kenya more than like many of the other countries and ended up staying there. I had community.
And these
there.
were like weekend trips. You would stay in for weeks, months.
Yeah. So initially I was only staying like, 2 weeks in each country. And then I got tired because like you're constantly flying, new foods, new culture, new languages. So I ended up choosing Kenya as like my home base away from home. So the first time around I stayed there for a month. And then I continued on and went to other countries like Egypt, Greece, Turkey, Jordan, some of the Middle East like Dubai, this other little island called Bahrain, which like it borders Saudi Arabia. I have an old friend who lives there and she let me stay with her.
Oh.
She's a teacher out there. She used to be my Spanish teacher in high school.
Wow.
And she's like traveled all over the world. Shout out Amy Teran. And she let me stay with her for a couple weeks out there.
And you met up with some other like real estate buddies and just friends from Instagram and Facebook that you've connected with, right?
So yeah, I made a lot of friends. Like you meet so many creative entrepreneurs while you're traveling. One of my good mentors here, she met up with me in Egypt. And so from Egypt, we went to Jordan together.
Nice.
So most of it, I was solo, but I had, a couple instances where I got to like see familiar faces.
Yeah.
And towards the end, like I, made my loop and came back to Kenya and I ended up staying there for 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really is like home away from
Yeah,
home when you stay that long.
I had a Kenyan phone, like phone number and everything. Had my gym membership.
That's
my like Instacart where I'd get my groceries. Yeah.
You're like a real.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So basically when I moved out, I packed all my stuff. I left my car in the garage. I put all my things in bins. Like I live a pretty minimalist life. So I didn't have many things. Like years before, I was already working on getting rid of things that no longer serve me. People, things,
Yep. Got to do that clearinghouse.
house. And I knew like what my values and like my priorities are. And for me, it's like culture, food, travel, like family, friendships. Like it's never been, obviously I like nice things, right? But it's not something that I absolutely need to have.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if you give me to choose between a trip and like a Louis Vuitton purse, I'm gonna take the trip.
Yeah. And you have both. Because the beauty is that real estate has afforded you this life.
Yeah.
Between being able to be a full-time business owner in your real estate business where you act as an agent, help people buy and sell, and then being a full-time investor yourself, like real estate has given you this life. Did you ever think when you were growing up as a girl in what used to be the hood part of Denver that you would be here and that you would have the freedoms that you have, the luxuries?
Not at all. I knew I wanted to travel ever since I was a kid. Like I grew up watching National Geographic and like was obsessed with all of that.
Yeah.
Like I was obsessed with like, the water and sharks and things like that. I got scuba diving.
Why have we not talked about going in one of those shark tanks together?
I did in South Africa.
You did it without me.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I
There's like
do
great
know.
whites that you can like, they put you in the cage.
Oh my god.
I did all kinds of stuff. I did like the paragliding where you like run off a mountain and you like jump.
I saw that.
Oh yeah, where like my arm got stuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
You've had quite the adventures.
Yeah, so I never thought I would be where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, grew up government housing, food stamp, single mom. My mom, was an immigrant from Mexico. Doesn't speak much English till this day.
Mm.
Very soft spoken. I think, yeah, as a kid, it always felt like, till this day, like it was just us, We didn't have anyone else to have our back.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's probably what's helped make you this badass, strong woman who is still very loving and caring. And I appreciate you sharing your background in social work because that definitely speaks to why you're so caring with the people that you deal with, both your clients, just everybody. You're very sweet and caring. And even though you've come from, a tough upbringing and had to do a lot to take care of yourself and help with your family, we see how that pays off, and what you've built for yourself now is amazing.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So how do we find you? I'm sure our listeners, our viewers will want to connect with Lorena Zamora. I love saying your name. Like, did I say that already? Yeah, I love saying the name.
Say my name.
Lorena Zamora. Do I say it? Wait.
Sí, lo dijiste bien.
Okay. Bien.
Buen trabajo.
Where do we find you? How do we connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Denver Real Estate Queen or Facebook just under IG.
Our Denver real estate queen, baby. So, sorry, what else?
No, just Denver Real Estate Queen. That's the best
IG.
best way. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out today. Is there anything else you want to share with us, or, any plugs you want to mention? Anything?
I am looking for my next flip. So if you guys have anything out there, send it my way. I'm excited to start flipping. So send me your deals.
Yes. Denver deals? You looking in any other markets?
Denver metro area, so surrounding areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm your wholesaler too.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find for you. I haven't been doing much active wholesaling, but that's part of what we're in the process of building up is our wholesale team again.
Yay.
Again, for me, having a wholesale team and bringing in other people to coach and lead them so it's not all on me.
I want to do some wholesaling.
Yeah.
Because then maybe I can find better deals
for
myself.
Yeah, no doubt.
So count me in. We'll talk after this.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Beyond the Deals with your host, Gabrielle Simmons. Another mention to our sponsor, Builders Outlet. Builders Outlet is your go-to for doors, windows, trim, and cabinets. Check them out at buildersoutletco.com. That's all. Thank you, guys.